You're listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.
It's Thursday, May 28th. Here's why global investors are paying attention to Korea today. Four macro forces converged this week that directly reshape the investment case for Korean equities. Let me take them in order of strategic importance. First, Micron crossed $1 trillion in market capitalization on May 26th, up 19.29% in a single session, its largest daily gain in company history. The catalyst was UBS raising its 12-month price target from $535 to $1,625, more than tripling it, citing the structural transformation AI has brought to the memory industry. Micron's 2026 HBM production capacity is already fully committed to customers. UBS projects earnings per share above $100 by 2027 through 2029. But the number that matters most for Korean equities is $200 billion. That's Micron's total U.S. investment commitment, raised from $170 billion on May 22nd, covering a $100 billion fab in New York State, expanded Idaho headquarters, and increased HBM packaging capacity. The U.S. government is not a passive observer. USTR Jameson Greer, speaking at Micron's Virginia expansion ceremony, stated the U.S. will impose comprehensive item-specific tariffs on semiconductors at the appropriate time, explicitly signaling that Micron's U.S.-manufactured chips will receive tariff protection that Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix's Korean-manufactured chips will not. Commerce Secretary Lutnick has separately warned that companies not building U.S. factories could face tariffs of 100%. Micron's 10-year ambition, grow DRAM market share from its current 23% to 40%, directly at the expense of Samsung and SK Hynix. For portfolios with Korean semiconductor exposure, the tariff signal from USTR is the most important policy risk variable for 2026. It changes the competitive economics for Korean chip makers in their largest end market. Second, China's Huawei disclosed a chip design breakthrough at the IEEE Circuit Symposium this week, a technique called logic folding, based on what it terms the tau scaling law. Instead of shrinking transistor dimensions, which requires EUV equipment China cannot import, logic folding folds circuits into a multi-layer vertical structure, reducing signal transmission time. Huawei's next Kirin mobile processor, manufactured on SMIC's 7-nanometer process, claims transistor density of 238 million per square millimeter. TSMC's current 3-nanometer process achieves 220 million. Korean academic experts assess logic folding as approaching the performance level of TSMC's 1.4-nanometer node, targeted for 2028 mass production. The HBM dimension is the critical watch item. Korean experts note that logic folding directly overlaps with next-generation HBM packaging technology. If combined with YMTC's NAND stacking technology and CXMT's DRAM processes, China could accelerate domestic HBM self-sufficiency using its own equipment ecosystem, without needing the EUV machines that export controls are designed to restrict. The timeline is 3 to 5 years, if the technology is independently verified. But the strategic implication is clear. Export controls on equipment have a shorter shelf life than markets currently assume. Third, the U.S. Iran ceasefire remains unresolved. Iran is demanding $24 billion in frozen asset releases, with $12 billion required up front, as a precondition for a deal. Secretary of State Rubio said talks could take a few more days. The Kospi Volatility Index closed today at 70.83, a level comparable to the period immediately after the Iran war outbreak, even as the headline index hit a new all-time high. That divergence between index performance and volatility pricing signals that derivatives markets are maintaining elevated tail risk assessments on Korean equities regardless of the rally. There is also a Starlink dimension relevant to technology investors. Reuters reported this week that SpaceX demanded, and the Pentagon ultimately accepted, a fivefold price increase on Starlink terminal fees used for drone operations in Iran from $5,000 to $25,000 per connection. SpaceX also won a $2.21 billion Space Force contract for its Golden Dome missile defense communications network. Starlink generated 69% of total SpaceX Q1 revenue and is its only profitable business unit. SpaceX plans to list on NYSE next month, in what would be the largest IPO in history. Capital allocated to the SpaceX offering will partly rotate from existing technology positions. Monitor flows in Korean tech stocks, particularly Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, during the 2 weeks surrounding that listing. Fourth, USTR Greer told the Council on Foreign Relations on May 26th that the 10% universal tariff, currently set to expire in late July under its 150-day legal limit, could be reimposed immediately after expiration. He also confirmed the administration is constructing a new tariff framework under Section 301 of the Trade Act, which carries more durable legal footing than the current emergency authority and would be harder to challenge through WTO processes. For Korean exporters, a Section 301 semiconductor tariff is the worst-case scenario. It would establish a permanent structural cost disadvantage relative to Micron's U.S. output. 3 catalysts to watch: the SpaceX IPO next month and its impact on technology equity flows, the USTR Section 301 semiconductor tariff announcement expected around July, and Huawei's Kirin chip release in Q3. When independent teardown analysis will tell us whether the logic folding transistor density claim is real. That's today's AI PRISM, Global Investors. This episode was produced with AI assistance based on Seoul Economic Daily reporting and reviewed by a human editor. AI PRISM is a Juan Ifra award-winning series. We'll be back tomorrow.
You've been listening to AI PRISM from Seoul Economic Daily.